I'd like to call this meeting of the Architecture Review Board and City Planning Commission to order. It's Thursday, November 6th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Will you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? United States of America. Why is it? It is law. Justice. Roll call, please.
Watching,
Here.
Hunter,
Here.
Stocko,
Here.
Boardman,
Here.
Eastland, Minell,
Here.
Schroeder.
Here. Next, we've got approval of the minutes from the October 23rd, 2025. So moved. Second. We had a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any discussion, questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved. Our first item is a comprehensive outdoor recreational plan for the city of Elkhorn. We do have a problem here. We did not list the public hearing on the agenda, so we're probably going to have to move this to another meeting, but we've got Ben here. I guess logistically, how are we going to do this? Do you have any thoughts, Ben? This maybe you can't hear us.
Is there anyone there wishing to speak as part of the public hearing?
No.
They're not, the reason nobody's here is it wasn't on the agenda.
But it was noticed.
It was noticed. It was in the paper.
So legally, by definition, you have noticed it and no one has shown up. So from the perspective of, is there additional public comment to be heard at this meeting? It doesn't appear that that is the case. By state statutes and the DNR requirements, you do not have to do a public hearing. This was a voluntary exercise that the city chose to do. We've collected over 900 comments through this public process. And so if the Plan Commission felt comfortable following my presentation, I think they could still proceed with action on the resolution, foregoing the public hearing at this meeting because of those situations.
Yeah, just a question. Just a question for you. Why did we schedule the public hearing? Was this just voluntary or or was it necessary?
It wasn't necessary. We talked about whether we wanted to have a notice or not. And we decided after talking with city staff that we wanted to give the 2-week notice. So we felt that it wasn't necessary with the 900 responses. But we did it just to fulfill having that because we didn't have it 5 years ago because of COVID.
So we scheduled the public hearing just because we wanted to encourage more feedback.
Yes.
Okay.
Are we comfortable with proceeding after that? Okay. Anyone uncomfortable with just going ahead? Seeing no one, let's go for it here. So you have a presentation for us, Ben?
I do. Has it appeared on your screen now?
Let me try something different here. Not yet. We still see you. Hold on a second. Let me try one more thing. Love technology.
Is it up there now?
And you're ready to go.
Can you see my screen?
Yes,
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was waiting for confirmation for that. Sorry.
that's okay. It might have been my speaker.
So thank you all. Appreciate the time this evening. My name is Ben Rohr with Vanderwall and Associates. We're based out of Madison, and we've been assisting the city with the updated comprehensive outdoor recreation plan, otherwise known as the CORP. So today's the culmination of a process that was started quite a while ago. Wanted to provide an overview of how we got here, hit some highlights of the plan itself, and provide an opportunity for you all to ask questions as we move through the recommendation process towards approval via the city council. So the project began with a variety of kickoff meetings, in addition to focus group interviews, an online survey, and a parks tour and existing conditions evaluation. All of this information was pulled together to inform the update of the draft plan that was completed over the summer. Now, this is an update. This 2025 version is an update of the 2020 version that Carl referenced that we worked on together. And so, excuse me, the framework for a lot of the elements that are in the plan remain the same, but we made strategic changes throughout this process informed by the public input. As we transitioned through the summer and the fall, we did a couple of Parks and Recreation review meetings, a public review period throughout August and September. And then just last week, the Parks and Recreation Board recommended this plan for approval. And here we are today before the Plan Commission prior to seeking adoption by the City Council. So as previously mentioned as well, the public input process was significantly more robust this go around than we were able to do during COVID in 2020. So we held 3 open to the public Parks and Recreation Board meetings, 3 different focus group listening sessions, an upfront online survey, and then on the back end, an online survey with the draft review. And then also we went to National Night Out with the city's Parks and Recreation Department booth and gathered input during that session as well. In combination, we heard from 900 or we received 900 plus comments through this process, which is significantly more than what we got in the 2020 version. If you've had a chance to look at the plan, what we've done is intentionally split it up into the appendices, which is your background information, data, all of the public input that we received, and some of that kind of information. Still important, but we wanted to streamline the plan for user friendliness, and so we've separated it out. The main plan really is divided up into 7 chapters, and I'll briefly go through each of those here this evening. Chapter 2 is the public input. This was updated via the summary of all of the input that we gathered through this process. Like I mentioned, every single comment we got is documented within the appendix. Within the Chapter 3 goals and strategies, the framework, like I mentioned, was still there. We made strategic updates to this section based off of the feedback received. And then Chapter 4 is where we spent a good amount of time updating the standards and the analysis to inform the recommendations. So as you're probably familiar, we divide and group the parks into similar size and types. So we call that neighborhood parks, which are typically neighborhood serving, directly adjacent to these neighbors and smaller in nature. Community parks, which are larger, serve a wider range of the community. Special use facilities where there's a narrow singular use for that property, and then multi-use trail corridors are, sort of self-explanatory. As you transition into the bottom half of the screen, you can see of those total, we have 12 total parks within the city of Elkhorn's, what the city of Elkhorn maintains and owns. We have a total of just over 192 total acres. And for park planning purposes, we put this into acres per 1,000 residents threshold. And this helps us, excuse me, this provides us with the ability to compare and contrast different communities throughout the country. So they all use this metric, and that's one thing that we can provide a little bit of comparison on, which I'll get into in the follow-up slides. But overall, the city 18.7 acres per 1,000 residents. So when you're looking at that in comparison to some of the other neighboring communities in the area, what you'll find is that while the city of Elkhorn may have a smaller total number of parks, 12 in comparison to some of these other communities, they do have, the city does have a similar total number of acres to these other communities and acres per 1,000 residents. Additionally, if you look at that bottom row in the table, that average for the national average for communities less than 20,000 is 12.9 acres per 1,000 residents. And in the overall, if you took every single parks department in the United States that provides information to the national database, you're looking at 10.2 acres. So all of that is to say, Elkhorn's doing very well in comparison to a lot of these metrics of comparable communities and national averages overall. I know this is probably too small to see any real detail associated with either map, but map 1 on the left side of the screen is the existing parks, like I mentioned, categorized by those different types. And then also, obviously, the schools, the fairgrounds, the county-owned facilities that are recreational. And then on the right is the service area analysis. And what this does is it looks at generally where do the parks serve the residents of the city. And we factor in constraints like, for instance, the interstate being a constraint for walkability and connectivity, that kind of thing. And so what we ultimately find is the vast majority of the city is covered within these service areas. But I have some gaps identified, and those are things that we strive to, over time, eventually fill in and provide services within those areas. Now, when we're looking forward through this planning process, we look in 10-year increments. So when we're looking out to 2035 and 2045 with this plan, as I showed in the previous slide, 18.7 total acres per 1,000 residents. We did an additional analysis where we divided up the acres into what's called constrained versus unconstrained within the existing park system, meaning constrained acres would be areas that are floodplain or wetland or places where active recreation uses couldn't necessarily function. And we only looked at the unconstrained acres where active recreation, things like ball fields, things like play fields, playgrounds, all of those types of things could be located. And we created a standard for the city moving forward. And this standard is truly a goal. It's the goal for what level of service the city wishes to provide moving forward. So looking at today, that's 13 acres per 1,000 residents of those unconstrained acres. Obviously, if we're basing it off of today's standard of 13, we meet it. But looking out to 2035 and 2045, if the population increases, that would mean additional parkland would be needed to maintain that level of service standard moving forward. At the population projections that we put together, looks like about 13 acres over the next decade and 30 acres over the next 2 decades. Additionally, the DNR, the state, nobody's saying you have to do this. This is truly a goal, a barometer, something to look at moving forward and say, as the community grows, we as a community through this plan are saying we want to add new park space and parkland availability and services to those new residents. Truly the sort of meat and base of the document is the recommendations within Chapter 5, the estimated costs in Chapter 6, and the implementation in Chapter 7. So talk a little bit more about those big picture recommendations. We've identified strategic improvements to each park. Obviously, this will be dictated upon funding sources over the next 5 years. Is it possible to implement all of these things? No, we understand that. We intentionally, through this plan, over prescribe to the ideas that are listed for implementation. And the reason for this is not only that we want to set ourselves up for long-term thinking. Maybe when we do this plan again in 5 years, that project hasn't been implemented. Now it's a priority over this coming 5 years. Additionally, when you adopt this document, you are eligible for state stewardship grant funds through the DNR. If a project is not listed within the plan, that project is not eligible. So we intentionally try to take a little bit wider scope in looking at what possibilities are out there so that we're trying to make ourselves grant eligible in the event that we want to pursue a grant over the planning period. Some of the big picture facility opportunities that people identified: splash pad, multi-use sports court, disc golf, skate park. Obviously the band shell is ongoing, and then turf and lighted fields. Those were sort of the big picture things we heard a lot of through the public input process. We also obviously recognize the new parkland that was recently acquired, and implementation of improving that parkland is something that's recommended by this plan. In addition to, staff has started to contemplate, could there be sort of a reconfiguration at Sunset Park? I think with that process would come a master plan for that specific property to figure out what that reconfiguration could potentially look like. And then throughout the process, we heard about expanding and continuing to connect bicycle trails, pedestrian systems, walkability, improving walkability and bikeability. As not unique to the city of Elkhorn, but is every single community across the country facing financial constraints. One way that other communities have tried to overcome this is by establishing friends groups dedicated to helping the park system, either through dedicated volunteer hours or through fundraising mechanisms. And those are ways that the city could potentially explore increasing those collaborative opportunities over the plan. And then the city's has dedicated funding towards ADA improvements. That continues to be a priority from the public comments that we received. So map 3 includes future park locations. Now you're saying, oh my gosh, 15 new park locations. The plan is not saying over the next 5 years or even 10 years that we're looking at this number of new parks. What this map is intended to do is identify and correspond with the comprehensive plan's future land use map. If you can see the shaded tan color on the map, those are residential growth areas. So we've identified park locations in those residential growth areas. So if those do happen over the planning period, basically we're triggering that the city would like to see parks and open space be provided in those areas to accommodate the new residents of those new neighborhoods. Additionally, trail connections have been identified, and within the document, we've created a parkland evaluation tool, which is a quantitative scoring metric, basically to say, we have a proposed piece of property that for acquisition or bringing into the park and rec system. How well does that align with the park plan? Well, this tool helps us at least provide one insight into that question. And then finally, there's implementation. So part of this is costs. And as you probably are all aware, costs have increased dramatically for all infrastructure over the last 5 years at a pretty rapid clip. So what we did is we provided some cost estimates for the different improvements that are identified with the plan, with the caveat being that, those numbers could be wrong tomorrow in all reality. And the Parks Department has even experienced this, trying to implement a new shelter in the past couple of years. So these numbers continue to fluctuate rapidly. Now, one tool that the city has to implement the park plan moving forward in relationship to new parks and recreational facilities is through the parkland dedication, fee in lieu of parkland dedication, and park impact fee. So the city has an established parkland dedication, fee in lieu, and park impact fee that you can see on the screen. Within the plan itself, what we did is analyze what it would take to implement the plan and what that would mean in terms of changing these metrics. The plan adoption does not change those metrics. That would be a separate policy action. All it does is analyze and give you a framework for, are you on the right page with what you have on the books today? And as you can see, because those costs have changed so dramatically, in particular, the park impact fee, which goes towards improving the land into an actual park. Right now, you're charging between $600 and $800. Actually, what it would take is around $3,000 per unit to actually implement what it would cost to do that. Now, I'm not saying you need to tomorrow go out and change these things. It's all perspective, and it's all just giving you more opportunity to understand the situation. Whether you pursue that policy or not will be ultimately up to the council. And then finally, there's action items. So there's several ongoing actions, for instance, the band shelter and that redevelopment and historic preservation element of things. And then there's a variety of short-term and medium-term options for different action steps that would be pursued by city staff and by the Parks and Recreation Board to begin implementing this plan over time and bringing it to life through a variety of different ways. So I do appreciate your time this evening. Happy to answer any questions. I realize Carl's there. He can help with any questions as well. Other than that, we would be seeking action from the Plan Commission on a recommendation this evening as well. Thank you.
And just to clarify as well, we do not have park impact fees as the city right now. And just because if this plan commission chooses to adopt this, you're not adopting the park impact fees that are recommended. That'd be something separate than this document as well. Just wanted to clarify that.
Correct.
Does anyone have any questions? This plan, would that, does,
Oh, good.
I was gonna say, does this need to be approved by planning commission and then go on to the council?
Yeah, that's correct.
Can you just show, I saw on that last slide you were showing just a second ago on the action items, you talked about the 15 ongoing actions, the 10 potential short-term, the 8 potential medium-term. Can you just identify where those listed out?
Yes, each one of those are within chapter 7. There's figure 7.1 includes all of the various action items. Some of them are as basic as, participate in other, jurisdictional planning efforts like Walworth County or neighboring communities. And then they go all the way up into talking, about things like investing money into the renovation of the band shelter or collaborating on new projects with different city groups, implementing different park master plans, all the things that we talked about. But I didn't specifically list every single one out just for the sake of the summary.
Is the full plan included in this, in the plan commission package, or is it just the summary and the appendices?
Full plan. The full plan.
Yeah, it was the full plan.
It's 116 pages.
Okay. I just don't see chapter 7. That's why I'm just asking.
What page is that on, Ben? Do you have a page?
You're in the appendix right now.
Yes, you have to go back. So,
But within the plan itself, it's page 55.
This is the slideshow right here, so this is the actual court, right?
That's the appendix, yeah.
So which page we referring to?
It has. Right, 1 sec. Oh,
If this is what's
that's-
in your packet, it doesn't look like the actual plan is there. This is only
Yeah,
the
there were 2
appendix.
links. Included. Jerry, do you recall if you put the two links in the plan or just the one link that was sent?
The one that was sent.
Ben, would you be willing to pull up the document, please?
Yeah, so this is chapter 7. And then this would be the action plan. The first page is the ongoing stuff, and then the second page would be the short term, and then beyond there.
I think they have up, right?
I guess, Mayor, there's, my understanding is that there's time for this to be still voted upon, so I guess, obviously, this is a planning commission decision, but given the fact the plan wasn't actually put in the packet, I just think it'd be tough to have the planning commission approve something that wasn't actually
Yeah.
included, so.
So yeah, there are two, those documents, like Ben said, are rather large, so I sent both of them. And it looks like the appendices was the only one included in the packet, so I want to apologize about that. But the final draft plan is significantly longer, and Adam is correct in saying that the plan commission didn't get to view the document in its entirety.
I would agree that we may potentially want to place this on a future meeting and bring it back when you're able to have time to review all of the documents,
I'm okay with that.
So is that the recommendation, planning commission then to put table is?
Bring it back.
Do we need a motion for that?
I'll make a motion to bring it back to the planning commission when we have all the information.
Second. We got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion will be brought back in a future meeting. Okay, thank you, Ben,
Yeah, thank you.
for your presentation. I don't. So, yeah, good enough. All right, we'll move on to our next item is Henry Van Dyken, Southern Lakes Recycling, 220 South Broad Street for a conditional use permit, discussion and recommendation. We need a motion to bring this back before the planning commission. We tabled it the last time it was in front of us, so. Is that a motion to reconsider? Is that what it's called?
it's a motion to take it off the table. Yeah.
I make a motion to take it off the table. Second.
We got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, So it's back on the table. Allison, I think quite a bit has been settled here, it looks like, from the documents I'm reading since the last time we talked about this. Can you give us a little history of what's been done?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So, at our last plan commission meeting, we talked about the conditional use permit application for Southern Lakes Recycle. They've applied for a conditional use permit for their location at 220 South Broad Street, for continued, recycling center with outdoor storage. So they've come back a couple of times, you've seen them, and at the last plan commission meeting, I think it was determined that the plan commission really just wanted some more information, some more insight, on the, property's operations, as well as the impact of noise at the property. So I was instructed to go out and meet with the property owner. So I had a nice little field trip over to Southern Lakes Recycle. Henry was great. He showed me all around the property. I got a full tour of the entire facility. So I know the ins and outs of how to run a recycling center. But it was it was very it was very helpful to understand, their operations and what they do on site there. They turned on all the equipment for me. So, every piece of equipment was running and in full operation. I was able to take several sound measurements, from inside the property, at the property parcel lines, and outside the property down the road in the residential zoning districts. So I was able to take quite a few different sound measurements. And I did include some photos in the packet, but I also have some videos to share with you all tonight so that you can get an idea of what I saw, and then I can explain kind of what was going on at that time. So Matt can pull those up for you guys. You can just go start from the top, that's fine. You can play it and then I'll talk about it when it's done. Okay, so you'll notice that in this video, there is sound, but you can't really hear anything. And you'll notice that the sound meter is reading at like a 45. You just saw a high of 51. So it's between that 45 and 50 area. This is when I am in the residential neighborhood, metering the sound. And you'll notice that it kind of tends to go up for a split second. You'll see the sound meter jump. That's when they're running equipment and maybe a piece of metal is dropped into a trailer or something like that. But that's the reading I get when all equipment is at full blast, operating in their site. And so that is a fairly low meter reading. I did put some examples in my, staff report of different decibel levels, in comparison of decibel levels. And so that 45, 50 level is like the sound that you get from a quiet office or a refrigerator running in the background, rain falling. So it's not a very loud, harsh noise. It was consistently pretty quiet in the residential areas. Again, it was when things were like dropped or placed, where you'd see for a split second, it would kind of go up, but there was no significant noise when I metered. So if you want to go on to the next video, Mac.
Oh, that's okay.
Allison, when you're in that residential, how far away are you? A block, 2 blocks?
Like a block or two, I would say, away. Yeah.
I guess I own the property across the street there, so I know right where she was. She's literally one house into Rockwell,
Yes.
201 Rockwell. So you're less than a block away from the fence.
All your meter readings were just from equipment running, right?
Yes, all of their outdoor equipment. So Henry has a lot of their operation is done indoors. So their cardboard compression is done indoors.
Yeah.
What happens outside is they have two pieces of equipment, and they can probably explain this so much better than I can. But they have two pieces of equipment, and on this video is one piece of equipment. This piece of equipment picks up metal in this pile and it loads it into a truck. And then that metal is hauled off site to a different location. So individuals come and drop things off at the Southern Lakes Recycling Center. They go on the scale, they take a look at what kind of materials they're dropping off. And then you'll see there's a gentleman here while I'm here. He backs his truck in after they've weighed everything and paid him for that metal, and he unloads it all. He takes it out of his truck and he leaves it there. Then about 4 times a week, a big semi truck comes, backs into the site, and this piece of equipment loads it into that semi trailer and removes it from the site. So that's one of the pieces of equipment. Again, that happens about 4 times a week that this piece of equipment is running. And it's just loading metal into this trailer to be hauled off site. They then have a second piece of equipment that picks up larger pieces of metal and puts it into like a compactor, or I think you call it a shear, where the metal is cut into smaller pieces. So they pick up the metal off the ground with one of those pieces of equipment, and they set it inside the shear, which is right here in this video. You'll see it's this big long green piece of equipment. They pick the piece of metal up, they put it inside, and then that machine slowly slices that metal into smaller, more compact pieces and then kind of kicks it out. So those are the only 2 pieces of equipment that they have outside. And they don't run every day. They run sporadically throughout the week, but you'll notice that while I was here, we purposely scheduled it so that I could see a time where they were loading up one of their semi trucks. And I think Henry said that only happens about 4 times a week. So this video just shows a little bit of that and shows more of the noise if you want to play it for him, Matt.
But you didn't run a meter when they were crushing automobiles.
I did, yes, yep. So I do have some meter readings from this point as well. I don't think I hear noise, sorry.
I think it's big enough. You tried.
Guess I would like to know from Mr. Van Dyken. I understand that it was years ago that you were told by the city that you had to come in for a conditional use permit. And it took years before that happened.
I was actually never told. I did it on my own. If you could tell me who told me.
Lots of technical difficulties here tonight. So while Matt's working on that, the sound measurements that I took here in this location, while I was kind of right in the middle of all of the noise and the machinery that was operating, those were measuring a little bit higher at,
Sorry.
you're fine. I'm just pulling up my notes here. Those were measuring between 65 and 80 decibels.
Hang out here for a second. I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna leave this and come to go to see. Try this.
So it is a difference from outside the site. Measuring, you know, at that 45, 50 decibel level. And then inside the site, measuring up to like an 80 when equipment is being dropped and moved around. So here you'll get that sound. And then if you want to go to the next one, there's a couple of them in here that I took just so you can get an idea. Like when they drop, that's the highest sound rating that I'm getting at that like 80 decibel level. You're reading from that same one. The overall site. You can just get a quick glimpse of the two pieces of equipment that are being stored outside.
It's okay, I'd like to go back and play those first two, because I don't know that we had
Sure.
volume of those.
Yep. You can kind of hear that squeaking. That's the equipment moving. Maybe a little WD-40 or something. He did. Yeah. So that kind of gives you an idea of the outdoor operations that they have going on. And I will say, while you're right in the middle of their site, it gets pretty noisy. You've got some really heavy pieces of equipment that are running. But on a decibel level comparison, their highest rate is like city traffic noise. And after kind of talking with the applicants, it sounds like that outdoor activity is not occurring all the time. It's something that they can schedule. And so if the plan commission is interested in making a motion for any sort of approval of a conditional use, that's open for discussion on appropriate hours of operation to be running this type of equipment and that sort of thing. But, the scrap is coming in, they are moving it around, they might be cutting it up into smaller pieces, and then they're immediately taking it off site. So you'll see that pile in all those videos and all the photos that I included. It gets bigger throughout the week, and then they'll have a truck come in, pull it off. The pile of scrap will then get smaller, and then it might get larger depending upon who's dropping off. On the inside of the facility, they have a different piece of equipment that compacts all of their cardboard, which was a part of their original operations, I think, when they started. They have a building inside where they store propane tanks that are dropped off. Those need to be separated from the rest and sent to a special facility. So those are all separate. And then they have a building where they properly drain all of the appliances that they receive. So the Freon, the refrigerators, those go into a separate building where they then drain what needs to be drained out. You'll notice in my very last video, very quickly in the background, you'll see a truck up on stilts. That's where they drain everything out of the vehicles, right there. So if they get a vehicle, they lift it, they remove everything from it, and then they scrap out the vehicle. I think Henry could probably talk more about what they do with the oil and gasoline that's removed from the vehicles and how they're properly doing that. He mentioned to me that when we were out and about that, they do have different inspections that they have to adhere to, and they follow proper procedure in order to be compliant with those sorts of things.
Being that they are demolishing vehicles in there, would that be considered a scrapyard?
For me, that's really a gray area, and, we have our attorney on for any legal guidance, on that and the differentiation from a recycle versus a salvage yard. But one of the main key differences in a recycling center versus a salvage yard is typically a salvage yard has customers. They have a customer base that can purchase items for salvage. So when you go to a salvage yard, you can pick through the vehicles and you can take an engine out of one or, a car part that you're missing. And they do not do that here. The public is not allowed to purchase anything from them. They are strictly moving the metal to a different site. So there's nothing for sale they're not salvaging anything out.
Well, where I have a problem is to conditional use their recycling facility inside, where they started. That is separate from what they're doing outside.
Mhm.
To me, that's a scrap. And nowhere in our zoning or anywhere within the city limits do we allow these scrap.
Right,
Is that right?
correct, absolutely.
Okay.
So I'm here for any questions. Like I said, it was it was good to have the knowledge about the overall operations. I think it was very helpful to understand, what exactly goes on there so that I can help better explain it to plan commission members. And Henry and his son are here to answer any questions you might have and,
Okay.
I think the demolition of vehicles are not in compliance with chapter 17 of the city of Elkhorn.
Like I said, I wouldn't have a problem with a conditional use for his recycling facility indoors. But I have a real problem with the outdoor operation. I don't think we can condition something that we don't allow. I don't know how we can.
That's how I don't know how this commission would approve it if it's not in compliance. So leaves it wide open for a lawsuit from the public.
Henry, how much of your business is the outside portion to the inside?
Probably 50%.
50/50?
More than, GFL starting to move away from everything now, starting to get harder and hardboard things.
The paper, it just, yeah. I mean, if we started in paper, but there were so many printers and, now they changed out the way they recycle, they put everything together, and mix all their recyclables and. So it just gradually started hauling scrap for a company and then it's like, well, we started taking a truckload to when we went to haul scrap and then it just grew from there and it just kind of seemed to be a great service. People just, we bought cans, aluminum cans and stuff inside for years. But
I think
it's a great service that's for the community. We get all kinds of people in from the city, the county, every township around. It just, I think we're down in a back area where nobody really notices us unless they really look, but yeah.
I guess my thought is we heard here at a couple different meetings anyway recently, that the biggest problem was the noise.
Right.
And I think we've heard here tonight that the noise isn't as big a factor as we were led to believe.
And as far as.
And I'm there all the time.
As far as processing cars, I mean, we don't have to crush them. We just take them, dump them in the trailer with the forklift and all we do is process them. We take the excavator and push the hood, the hoods and stuff down the
Make more
top, the
room.
roofs and we just make it, and then we usually throw them upside down to hold anything so it doesn't fly out, It's not like we have a machine that just crushes them down to nothing or anything,
how many
But
vehicles
you
do you
don't-
get a week?
It's just a.
It's like, for Sal's towing, just brought in like, we brought 50 in the last 3 weeks,
But
but
that-
in the normal week, we make it 2.
He saves them, they're all from the accidents and stuff, and then he gets rid of them at this
Right
time
before
of year.
winter.
So he got room to push snow in his yard in Delavan. But again, those all come with the oil and everything out, and all we do is just lift them up basically, put them in a truck, in our semi trailer, that's all we do. We're just really moving things from one point to another, we push things down a little bit, but that's. All we're doing is taking metal and loading it into a trailer, unloading it and loading it in.
Are those drained before they're brought to you, or do you drain?
Those are, but the ones that aren't, we drain, as Allison showed that stand and then we burn drain oil in our shop we have actually furnaces. And then for the gas, we have, OSI, which comes and picks it up. And we pay like 67 cents a gallon to get rid of it.
I think what you do is great, like you say, for the community, and it's a place where people get rid of stuff. My whole problem is the location and doing it. That way. It's right next to a residential, it borders that. That's where I have a problem, and nowhere does it say that we allow a scrapyard. And our city zoning administrator said, yeah, that's true. So how can I condition something we don't allow?
Yeah, and the thing is, in your application, on your description of what you do, that paragraph or a little bit more does not say that you're asking for permission to crush vehicles. So if you proved it as written, which you request, you wouldn't be allowed to crush vehicles.
Could we just load them on a truck without crushing them? Would that be okay? Would it just be called a metal transfer station?
I disagree with Kenny. It's not the place for it. It's not allowed, and the people in the neighborhood have been bitching for 4 or 5 years about it, and the city's done nothing. I can't approve anything that's not allowed in the city.
How many years of operation have you been in?
We've been there 24 years. Well, going into 25, but we started in paper. Yeah,
How many years have you been scrapping the outside?
probably started in the 2000, actually, early 2000s, we started doing it on a small scale,
Well,
you know.
We moved to Delvin for a couple of years and then went back.
Then we got more into it probably. We were doing pretty good before that. It
We
was
had to
just,
share for a little bit.
yeah,
Was that 2015? I don't know, it was later. That was
yeah.
2017.
I think this year we got in 2011.
You can kind of see from the aerial imagery in my staff report, like when it started, it was kind of around the 2015, between 2015 area.
and I know that what you do, and you said before that you're growing, and any business, you know, is gonna grow. If you're not gonna grow, you're gonna die. No matter what, I don't care. And you have grown, and Allison has the pictures from when then until now, and I think you'll continue to grow. And you're out of room there now.
I would say we're not out of room yet.
No.
Well,
I think
Would you
the
say so?
limitation is pretty good. Like,
You can only get it from so far.
like walk shop, they're gonna pay more at places that shred it and stuff, and it's really hard to be competitive with bigger places like that. And mostly we service Delvin, Elkhorn, and Lake Geneva, yeah.
I see in the conditions you've got here, there's a space for what hours of operation you'd be recommending. The blanks aren't filled in, so what are you thinking?
We're opening till 4:30, so.
It's their normal hours, you know, we always need like almost need a half hour later because people come in at 4:28. You know, and then it's always nice to have a half hour earlier.
So you're talking 8 to
Again,
5?
It's up to you guys, you know, it's not our, yeah.
How about
7 till 5. would be
how about
good.
Saturday hours?
Just 8 till 4:30, we don't, you know,
On
or not 8
Sat-
till 8 till noon, I mean, I'm sorry.
What do you use those outdoor machines on Saturdays?
We stack stuff up usually that customers bring in probably, you know,
Probably don't have to do as much.
you know.
The big,
Mhm.
we could probably just run smaller equipment,
Is safety a big concern?
Always.
but. you know,
I heard a rumor that you had an accident this morning.
This morning, I wasn't here yet, but I did not hear anything.
What kind of?
Was it?
Your excavator didn't swing around and hit a pickup truck that was dropping off stuff?
That was the day before, but that was his,
Hmm?
Well,
that's, we have it on camera, it was, he backed into a place kind of where he shouldn't have been to.
Yeah, he backed up behind us. I don't know. It go over, I got the videotape of it all and stuff. But, you know, I mean, the guy left and then he forgot his trash can. It was all over a trash can too. And he turned around, came back. I still have to talk to him some more and I think we're gonna just talk insurance and figure out something. But he came around, pulled up right behind the excavator and the guy didn't see him.
Is that normal though for to have them back in and dump stuff off? Yeah,
Well,
Normally, yeah.
usually, I mean, you don't see everything, usually people are smart enough not to.
But you don't have a
Smart
designated
enough not
area.
to Pull behind the excavator, you know, that's moving,
Well, the designated area has to get cleaned at some point or else
Yeah.
it gets out.
and he was already gone.
He thought it.
Okay.
This is very recent. I'm surprised you heard about this.
I just heard a rumor was all. I just
I just got back from like 2 hours late and I heard it.
Okay,
I talked to their guys.
Allison, is it possible to okay the conditional use for the building and what's going on inside and not conditional use because we don't allow it?
We probably just close it down.
So after speaking with
Yeah.
our attorney about this, they have been in operation for a very long time. And that operation that they started with, over 25 years ago, that indoor operation, the recycling of cardboard, aluminum cans, et cetera, they do have some sort of right to that, to continue that. So it would be in the city's best interest to approve the conditional use for that use that they've always been doing.
Right.
Now it's the expansion of the site that's up for interpretation.
That answered my question.
Mhm.
So I would be willing to conditional use the original recycling part of it, which is done with inside the building, but not the scrapyard outside. That would not be part of it. We just can't keep doing something wrong. And I'm not blaming it all on him. We probably should have taken action years ago for conditional use. We didn't. So it's both ways, okay? But at some point, we have to get to, it's not allowed in the city, so why are we doing it?
I guess I see where you're coming from, Ken, not
Yeah.
listening to your opinion, obviously.
Absolutely.
I guess I don't consider it a scrapyard. I consider it a recycling center. And so it's semantics back and forth. You do, I don't.
Yep.
So I guess I don't see any problem with a recycling center.
Is the question of it being a scrapyard, whether it's like, similar to salvage or, because you are recycling.
Oh, I know you are.
But we're not taking parts.
It's the
off,
part,
selling
I don't know what the interpretation of a scrapyard is.
Well, like D&E Auto out there,
them,
you know, they're out there selling
they sell.
door handles, starters, engines, whatever.
Have things laying around. I think that was more
and keep things moving in and moving out all the time. Otherwise, it really get full fast.
does your permit from the DNR say crushing of vehicles?
All we need is a stormwater permit from the DNR, and that's all we need, which we have. We do
sure you don't dump oil down the drain.
down
to hurt the environment.
to hurt the environment, you know. And we have a program where we take water samples and stuff.
And I'm sure you do all. And I'm not, challenging you on that. It's that it's not allowed within the city limits, what you're doing. So I'm done.
Do we have anything from this side of the room over here?
I'm just afraid of it growing more and more. So it's gonna be less and less, there's no more paper hardly. I suppose you're always gonna have cardboard and cans, but I see that end kind of dwindling. And this salvage part, the crushing, whatever, growing. And
Again,
that's what I'm afraid.
we're not to max yet. We don't have the money yet. We don't make the kind of money to start up a whole nother facility yet. You know what I mean? I mean, I wish,
understand.
besides Allison, I wish you guys would come down and really check it out. I'll give you a tour in the Ranger, you know? You think it's maxed out, but it's not, you're not looking at it.
No, I'm just saying, I know it's not bad. If you keep growing, then it's gonna, things are gonna increase.
Well, we're just gonna stay inside that area. We're not gonna go we only do so many different kinds of metal. We're not gonna get into like different kinds of shavings and turnings and stuff like that, like the big scrap yards are, we just get it in, get it out. I mean, like we have our own trucks, like we haul 4 loads of sheet iron probably a week. 5, 6 isn't gonna make a difference. It's just a matter of loading another load. It doesn't, and it's not like the traffic in the area now. I think Whitty's gonna move out, so it'll be less traffic than ever as far as cars in the area and trucks, but
We'd have to buy more land. I feel like I'd have to.
then we would probably go out of the city, it was just, everything works out, we're stuck, I think it's a great location down in the, and bring a lot of customers in, and they spend their money in town too, I don't know what you want.
You
It's
know,
up to you guys.
we really have a little bit of a gray area in our ordinance, and that, you know, that's unfortunate for the city. So there's no specific definitions in our ordinance that we can point to, but in our ordinance, we do have a definition of recyclable waste. And that's material that can be remanufactured into usable products and shall include, glass, plastics, newspaper, cardboard, metals, aluminum, steel, tin, brass, etc. And recycling centers in the M1 district are permitted as a conditional use, as is outdoor storage. So outdoor storage is permitted as a conditional use. Recycling center is permitted as a conditional use. Whether it's a salvage yard or a recycling center, at this point, that's unclear, distinctly in our ordinance. But the questions you're asking, Tom, is, you know, you're asking if, you know, you would hate to see it expand and get bigger and bigger and bigger and more out of control. That's exactly what a conditional use permit is for. It allows you to set those very specific conditions on hours of operation, parameters of outdoor storage, designated drop-off locations, those sorts of things. And so, you know, hopefully, if the city moves forward, we can use the conditional use permit as a tool to help alleviate the different impacts the site has on adjacent neighboring residential properties, but also help control the site in itself.
What kind of conditions would put on that would stop potential growth or making it bigger?
You know, you can.
Size.
You can limit outdoor storage, you can limit the times that the equipment is in operation. From my perspective, if the plan commission feels like the vehicles are more salvage than recycling center, prohibit the vehicles on the site. That's a valid condition that can be made on this site. But they are zoned M1, and with a conditional use, they do have the right to outdoor storage.
Could you make a condition that the vehicles cannot be crushed? They can come and go, but
Tim, do you have,
no crushing.
Tim, do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you've got a lot of latitude here on the conditions. And I mean, if you do decide to go forward on this, and I understand it's a mixed bag, you know, Allison's right. I mean, there's no definition of what a recycling center is. There's no definition of what a salvage yard is or scrap yard. So we are in a gray area, but we've got a long-standing business. And I feel like whatever they were doing before they expanded, you know, into crushing of cars and the cutting of sheet metal. I mean, I do feel like our recommendation would be to accommodate that use. The question is whether you allow what's been happening more recently, as shown in those aerial photographs. But the points are all well taken. The ordinances are not the model of clarity here. But in terms of your conditions, I mean, one, if you do decide to go ahead, one condition I thought of that's not on here is that you revisit the conditional use in a year or whatever time period you think is appropriate to make sure that this is working. And yes, you could, I do believe you could, in your conditional use, limit the operation in whatever fashion you like, as long as you don't impinge on what was happening before, you know, before this expansion time. So if you wanted to limit it to only vehicles being loaded and not crushed, I think that's on the table. You do have a lot of latitude, and I do feel like there's been a lot of factual material presented to the Plan Commission by the applicant, but also, the staff. And you do have latitude, but I do have concerns about how far you go here, given the lack of certainty in your ordinances. But taking into account the fact that you've got an ongoing business that probably was in place before the last iteration of your zoning code was put into place, which it looks like 2014, and we didn't do the research to see how far back your zoning code goes, but so you've got a lot of balancing to do, and you're the group to do it.
I guess the only thing I would just say is from an enforcement perspective, having conditions is only, the only value in having conditions is if you actually enforce them. And, when this issue came up a couple years ago, we looked at the timeline. There's been issues at this property since 1984 in terms of outdoor debris and letters that were sent to, not only Van Dyke, but the predecessors that are out there. So this has been an ongoing issue. So it's like if you impose conditions on a conditional use permit, well, then you have to be prepared to actually pull that permit. And I don't know if the planning commission would actually do that or not, because then the question is, well, now the person's, there's the argument about the person's livelihood. So I just would caution about putting a condition on there, thinking that that's going to solve it, because obviously this use has increased significantly since over the years. And again, Allison, you've got the pictures from 2018 to since then that the operation has changed, and the applicants have admitted the operation has changed. When I met with you guys said that, yeah, you started, disassembling cars and those kinds of things.
Crazy, kind of, we didn't know what was gonna happen.
So I'm just saying that the use has changed. So the argument that they've been there for 25 years, well, the use has changed in the last, since 2018, and that's at least when the city started getting some complaints. So I just want to,
And so
throw that out there.
we made it a lot cleaner and a lot tighter with the retaining walls and stuff, and we're really focused on keeping it looking very good.
Would you be agreeable? I guess I like Tim's idea of a 1-year trial. Have that as a condition that there'll be a 1-year review, with the understanding that if the noise goes crazy or the outdoor storage goes crazy, there's a chance you would lose your conditional use permit.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to know that, because obviously you can see everyone here is not in favor of issuing a conditional use permit.
No problem.
Well, to move this along, I would make a motion to approve a conditional use permit with the conditions listed. Also a condition of no car crushing and a 1-year review with hours of operation of 8 to 4:30 and no machinery use on Saturdays. Your shredder, it's not a shredder, shear.
Okay, no.
Your shear and your loading semis and whatnot,
Okay,
because that's where the noise comes from.
yeah. Oh, fine.
So that's my motion.
I'll second it.
So we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Roll call.
Yeah, roll call vote, absolutely can. So roll call.
Watke,
Yes.
Hunter,
Yes.
Stocko,
Yes.
Boardman,
No,
Geisler, Minell,
No.
Schroeder.
Yes.
Did we have anybody second that motion?
Yes, Dwayne. So the motion passes, and this just sends it on to the council with the approval of the planning commission. And, Allison, you usually write something up for the council, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Are you square? or
I'll be
square?
available. I will be at that meeting,
I
Tim.
mean, is there an understanding about the conditions?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Yes.
Okay, and there's a list of conditions, I didn't read them all off, but about the chemicals and, all the other standard conditions that Allison had written out. I think that's our last item. Do we have any discussion items? And we're having a meeting on the November 20th and the 4th. December 4th.
Yep,
Okay, and I'm thinking no meeting on December 18th, or will we have, is there potential we'd have one?
I don't have anything at this point, so I'm unsure. We have a meeting, please bring cupcakes, it's my birthday.
On the 18th of December? Okay, noted. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
I,
Opposed? We're adjourned.